guys, this is John Rips here. Over the weekend, I finished my third Legend Iron Man win of Long War 2 since release. This one was played exclusively on 1.2, and it was the best campaign that I have ever played of any XCOM game ever, and possibly just straight up the best campaign slash run slash playthrough of any game that I've ever played. It was just strategic pressure, held up really well throughout the entire game in pretty much every dimension. If you look at my barracks right now, this is right before I launched Waterworld, and I have exactly 12 Master Sergeants, and then like my barracks runs out. I have 12 other soldiers, so I have 24 total soldiers. My team was always busy. I was running many stealth missions, which I depended on to create intel to win, so they felt like engaging and important missions with, like, I only have one high-level Shinobi, everybody else was dying. I guess I have a tech sergeant now. But in general, I didn't have strong enough soldiers to guarantee wins on those missions, and I failed 17 of them. This campaign was played with a house rule that I'm not allowed to build network towers anywhere, not allowed to build radio relays anywhere that I hadn't beaten a network tower, so I really needed a lot of intel to complete the campaign, so that was always pressure. The Avatar project was really, really, really good pressure as I prepare to load out the final mission here. Oh, it actually isn't ticking at the moment. I guess we didn't even contact New Indonesia yet, but as I loaded it out, the timer was already ticking down pretty considerably, and we've been somewhat lucky to keep it from killing us at this point even. I countered a major breakthrough where I actually spent 5 intel to reveal a hidden dark event, because otherwise I wouldn't have gone on the mission. It wasn't a great mission, but hit reveal, found out it was a major breakthrough, and I was like, oh, if I don't beat that, I might die. Countered a minor breakthrough, managed to beat a facility, managed to beat all of the scripted quest missions at the end of the campaign with no failures. Any of those failing once would have been the end of the campaign, basically. Very, 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 very good campaign, and I really enjoyed it. The other house rule that I play with is that I'm not allowed to play with any 0% infiltration missions. I have to infiltrate at least 50% to launch anything, and I think in this campaign I actually didn't launch anything below like 90 or something, might have been my lowest. And that meant that like my barracks is constantly under stress. I lost a lot of soldiers in like the April through May period where I had lasers but I didn't have Predator yet. So my soldiers were pretty squishy and dying to yellow alert actions and stuff like that. Pretty much one soldier a mission for a while was going down. And then as I was trying to build a B team from that situation, I had a B team essential squad wipe. 4 soldiers died, and only the 5th and 6th were able to get out. Marco Costa was actually one of those guys who managed to pull through, become a Master Sergeant assault for me. So it was a really, really fun campaign. I got asked today to do like a class builds breakdown, and it's just really, really boring to do that and not very satisfying for me as a content creator. So I wanted to address that question by looking at my actual soldiers from this campaign. These are soldiers that have gone on a lot of missions with me. They're all viewer submitted for the most part. Remy Laurent is actually a randomly generated soldier from my first ever vanilla Legend Iron Man win. So he and I have a lot of history. And yeah, they just won a really sick campaign for me, so I want to show them off and explain why I made the decisions about the perks that I did. I think that the perk trees are extremely flexible in Long War 2. I pick more varied builds than I ever did in Long War 1, and every campaign I'm trying something new that I haven't really tried before. This is like the 7th campaign probably that I've gone pretty late in Legend Iron Man, and again the 3rd win. So I'm really pleased that I'm still changing my mind about what I like, or deciding that I like multiple different things for different soldiers or things like that. I guess it's actually probably best to look at the AWCs first for a soldier. So we can look at like their stats and the AWCs, because that explains who they are exactly. This guy rolled Lone Wolf on a gunner. I don't really think I can proc that very often. Ghostwalker on a gunner. He's not going to go on stealth missions, and it's not really worth 4 days in the AWC to train it just for like easing sneaking around before stealth missions anyway. If a gunner's ever going to engage, it's going to be with saturation fire, and you don't need Ghostwalker to get close enough to stuff to engage it with Saturation Fire. Didn't go for pistol perks on this guy because he's got quite low aim, and I figured he'd be busy suppressing and the like. Hooked him up with a dodge PCS. I don't think there was anything too fancy about that. He has -3 defense, and he used to have -9 dodge, so I think I just wanted him to stop being at risk of dying. Because, yeah, if you have low health, he has somewhat low health, low defense, and low dodge, you're going to die pretty fast in this game. All right, let's talk about the abilities that I actually gave him. So we went combatives, because, again, like I said, low defense and low dodge. I've seen tons of people dismiss combatives. All it does is +10 dodge and a melee counterattack, and he actually didn't melee a counterattack a single time in this campaign. But I think it's really hard to overestimate the value of 10 dodge in the game right now. It really does decrease the amount of damage that you take by a good amount, and the AI doesn't consider it when deciding who to shoot at. So having high dodge on your soldiers actually decreases the amount of damage that the AI deals overall in a turn, because they aren't smart enough to prioritize your lower dodge soldiers. Having higher defense on your soldiers doesn't necessarily do that, because the AI has some logic to let it shoot at guys who have low defense. So you may just have high defense soldiers who just get ignored and they shoot at the other guys anyway and deal basically the same amount of damage. But with dodge, especially on a soldier with low defense, this guy's got -3, you're pretty reliably reducing the amount of damage that is incoming against you. So combatives is not that bad. I usually go center mass on a high aim gunner and grazing fire on a low aim gunner here, but because this gunner was having so much trouble surviving, and actually, like I said, in April and May I was having losses. This is a soldier from a little bit later in the campaign, I'm pretty sure. Maybe he was like wounded on Gatecrasher, so I got to putting combatives on him at the point where I was already realizing that my roster was stretched. So yeah, given all that stuff, I went for combatives here, even though I think that it's probably the third least commonly picked perk on this Lance Corporal row for me. Moving on, at Corporal, I actually went for Lockdown over Hail of Bullets and Shredder. This is actually the first Overwatch spec gunner that I've really brought far into a campaign ever. It's not something that I usually do. I've increasingly moved away from Hail of Bullets, and the reason is that I don't find that there are many enemies that you really want to deal 7 damage to in this game. Hail of Bullets is very good at dealing somewhere in the vicinity of like 7 to 10 damage, but on Legend difficulty at least, you're really needing to deal 12 to stuff, and it really sucks to have to deal 2 damage to something with some ability because you left it with 2 hit points left. It's just not enjoyable and not a very good strategy. So what I was doing in this campaign was relying more on high damage dealers to one-shot things, and because of that, I didn't really expect Hail of Bullets to have great targets very often. Shredder, I think that Shredder is better available on the technical perk tree. Technicals, when they run out of consumables, don't have that much to do, and giving them Shredder, especially since I like to build them out of somewhat high aim soldiers early in the game so that their rockets are more effective. I think that early game technical rockets are ridiculous, and I lose tons of campaigns to tactical failure in the early game, so well worth picking up even though it's a one-use sort of thing each mission. Anyway, technicals do a better job of shredding. I ended up very low on Shredder as the campaign went on because I had no Grenadiers and only 1 technical with Shred, but we made it work. So we went Lockdown, and obviously once you go Lockdown, you're going to be going for some sort of Overwatch suppression sort of build that's pretty clear. At Sergeant, I think I always take Demolition at Sergeant. It's a very, very strong perk. Grenades don't do as good a job of destroying cover as they used to, and that's because there has to be room for perks like Demolition to be better than them, because this is an entire perk that a gunner is taking. It's a cooldown ability, and it is better than Grenades at destroying cover. It's pretty solid. At Staff Sergeant, on a higher aim gunner, I definitely like Chain Shot, especially going with center mass. I also really like Formidable, just all the time I like Formidable. It's a little bit later in the perk tree on Gunners than it is on other classes, and that makes it a little bit less appealing because you do start being able to replace it with other items, and like a tactical vest from Muton gives what, 2 hit points and 1 armor, so that's a small item which is doing more than Formidable does. You can stack them together, but this is obviously not a soldier I want getting shot with low dodge and low defense. Even after giving him the dodge PCS and combatives, he's still not a soldier I'm very happy with letting get shot. So this is more somebody that I'm going to deploy in heavy cover, sort of in the middle of my lines, suppress a bunch of stuff, and maybe put a smoke grenade on him even. I'm hoping for him to deal good damage on Overwatch as pods come in, and occasionally get some really nice lockdown of enemies and kill them if they try to run. And Tech Sergeant, I went for Cool Under Pressure. I think that Danger Zone is okay, but I figured that he would be on Overwatch with guys running into him quite often, and Cool Under Pressure is really nice there. And Cyclic Fire just wasn't something that I felt like I needed in this campaign. I had other ways to deal with really, really big enemies, namely assaults with pistol perks, which we'll get to eventually. Gunnery Sergeant, I went for Saturation Fire. I don't think Traverse Fire is all that valuable here. It's like, okay, I don't think Rapid Fire's better than Traverse Fire in many worlds. And this basically I went for Saturation Fire because it's really, really strong. It's not that it deals damage, it's that it very reliably destroys cover in its arc. And so you can uncover enemies to kill them with sharpshooters or slug shots from assaults at fairly long range. And my comp was based, like I said, I had very little shred, I had very few grenadiers, I have very little cover destruction, and I have very little mid-range output. I have like assaults who are very good at short range and sharpshooters who are very good at long range. So having the ability to saturation fire and actually kill something at moderate range by uncovering it was very valuable to me in this campaign. But I think that you can really think about your squad in this game. It's going to hold together fairly well after the mid-game because as you get more armor, you sort of stop having soldiers die and start having them get wounded, and you're more worried about the strategic failure than the tactical failure past mid-game. You're worried about dying to the Avatar project before your squad is ready to end the game, not so much about squad wiping in August or something like that, just because of how strong the Warden armor is and everything like that. So Saturation Fire is very much a pick because I knew what my composition was turning out to be and wanted to go for Saturation Fire to enable me to kill stuff at mid-range a little bit better. And at Master Sergeant, I took Combat Fitness, Kill Zones, a very sort of one-use perk, which is very good for ambushing pods. You could argue for taking it here. I think it would have been fine. And Rupture is just not really what I want to be doing on this soldier in particular because he doesn't have great aim and because I have other soldiers who are good at killing large targets already, like I said. Combat Fitness is just a very, very strong ability. 4 aim, 1 mobility, 2 hit points, 4 will, and 4 dodge. Continues to ensure that the soldier isn't dying, which is very valuable to me in this campaign. And the mobility, aim, and will just makes him a little bit better at outputting damage and stuff with his Overwatch perks and whatever in missions. So that's Master Sergeant's Death Vortex. He did a good job. I wasn't really expecting that much from him, but he was a bit of a sleeper on the bench. I didn't give him AWCs or get really excited about him ever, but he just consistently output really good damage. He got a few very good area suppressions off. Sometimes enemies would run and he'd kill them. Other times they were hunkering. I believe on my 6th soldier, a very heavy supply raid, his area suppressions were extremely, extremely key. And that was a mission that if you're going to look at missions which likely won the campaign, I think that my result on that mission is a pretty large one to consider. Yes, he did, I believe, start with -20 dodge, so combatives, like I said. Yeah, the stats that you get really let you make different decisions on soldiers, which is a lot of fun in this game. All right, let's look at Master Sergeant Squad Wipe. Squad Wipe, I have a fairly poor history with him. His name has come true quite a lot of the times that he has been in my barracks. So it was nice to get that stigma off him with a win. Uh this was a really interesting soldier to develop because I started with Guardian and very good sharpshooter aim. And I decided that it might be worth trying out a sharpshooter who wasn't necessarily spec'd to like Overwatch 8 times a turn or anything, but was spec'd such that I could hit Overwatch in combat situations and actually have it deal more damage on average than shooting, which is something that I've never really had with a sharpshooter before. I also eventually went for pistol perks with him. I ran out of time to train more. That's the only reason that I didn't get more of them. I believe my other sharpshooter was the one that I went for pistol perks with first, and then he was sort of read at the end of the campaign when I was waiting to end the mission. So, thinking about what this Overwatch sharpshooter might look like, Death from Above doesn't really do as much if I want to hit the Overwatch button in my turn, because we want to kill stuff in our turn with a sharpshooter. Snapshot is semi-interesting here and could have been okay, but I figured that I'd go for rapid targeting. It does help when he shoots regularly. I think that it's the strongest of the 3 perks just in general, and it helps him do something on his turn when he doesn't want to Overwatch or shoot something, just by buffing our other soldiers' ability to hit stuff, which, it comes up all the time. It's really actually a pretty big deal early in the campaign on like 4 to 5 soldier missions, because your Shinobi often has 90% chance to hit, and rapid target turns that into 100, and all of a sudden you don't have to worry about the fail condition where your soldier ran into their team right next to something and then didn't kill it, which is a really gross fail condition and not one that you're very ready to deal with in most 4 to 5 soldier missions at the start of the campaign. So I really like rapid targeting early. That's my default and is what I went for here. At Corporal, damn good ground for plus 10 aim and plus 10 defense against targets at lower elevation. It's mostly about the plus 10 aim, really. And I figured that I was going for Long Watch, and this is going to be sort of a nest sniper who plays a little bit weirdly, because sometimes he presses Overwatch instead of shooting. And so if he's going to be a nest sniper, damn good ground is definitely what we want. I've never picked precision shot here. Don't think it can compete with either of the other 2 options. I have picked high diff hollow in situations where I wanted the sharpshooter to be a little bit more toward helping other soldiers kill stuff. I don't think high diff hollow is very important when you have a lot of assaults on your roster, though, because close and personal plus a laser sight already is getting through 100% crit in a lot of situations. So, something to consider if maybe you're more centered on rangers and want to get crit values up against targets in like a sort of an entrenched warfare situation. But I've been finding assaults to just be generally stronger than rangers as short to mid-range damage dealers. So, at Sergeant, I went for Long Watch, and it turns out that Guardian checks to see if you took an Overwatch shot before it makes its roll, and Long Watch is not included in like the list of Overwatch shots. It's actually a vanilla bug, which I discovered. And so this soldier who I was planning to press Overwatch with a lot, and actually continued to for quite a while before I realized why it wasn't working, basically stopped working. But he still developed into 100 aim sharpshooter, 120 kills over 34 missions, pretty decent stuff. And the rest of the level ups are all normal. I would have gotten Deadshot if I hadn't rolled Guardian in the AWC just for the plus damage. Center Mass is very normal. I think Independent Tracking is just not a very exciting perk at all. I've never taken that and don't see any reason why you ever would. If you're hollow targeting stuff, it's with the intention of killing it that turn. I don't know why you're going to hollow target something and then not kill it. It doesn't make sense to me. And low profile, just in general, is not a very strong perk, in my opinion. I think that you can basically create the output that low profile generates by putting your soldiers in sensible places on the map and picking sensible places to fight. And I've never felt like I needed low profile and never regretted not taking it, and also never taken it, I'm pretty sure. Maybe in Long War 1 on like scouts before I was good at the game. That was a while ago. Um, at Tech Sergeant, I don't hate vital point targeting, but on a soldier with this good aim, we're just focused more on making his shot good, so we go with aggression. Again, if we have a lower aim sharpshooter, they can still output good stuff in a team, but we can move a little bit away from making their shots good and move a little bit more toward the idea of hollow targeting 3 times in a turn and helping the rest of the team kill stuff. And something like vital point targeting is good there. It helps if your research is in a state where you can pick up the tier 2 hollow targeter for a build like that as well, which is not something that happens every campaign. I didn't get the tier 2 or tier 3 hollow targeter in this campaign, actually. So definitely not the best campaign for a hollow target spec sharpshooter. Hey, I had to Lizzie. How's it going? At Gunnery Sergeant, I really wish that multi-targeting was good, but because it's turn ending, you can't really do your fancy rapid targeting stuff with multi-targeting as well. And Hunter's Instincts with +2 damage against flanked enemies is just way too good, given that at Master Sergeant you're going to be taking Serial, which I think is what should always happen every time your sharpshooter hits Master Sergeant. I think that this is actually a really interesting balance sort of conversation. It's a lot harder to use Serial well than it is to use Double Tap or Alpha Mike Foxtrot well. And I mean, 4 additional points of base damage with your primary weapon is very obvious what that does. You don't have to be good at this game at all to get 4 extra points of damage from your primary weapon and understand that that's doing something good. Serial, on the other hand, is a 7-turn cooldown ability which sometimes won't do anything if you shoot something and don't kill it. And in general, you have to be pretty intelligent about picking exactly when to use it and picking which targets to shoot in which order and when in your turn to shoot them, and it becomes very complicated to output maximally from a Serial. But that makes it really hard to balance these perks. Should it be that Serial is weak enough that the best players of the game can get slightly more output from it than Alpha Mike Foxtrot, or should it be that Serial is strong enough that somebody coming into this game for the first time and playing on rookie or veteran can get more out of Serial than Alpha Mike Foxtrot? Or should they be such that they're about even for a veteran / commander player? And what would that even mean? Who's a veteran / commander player, and how good are they at using Alpha Mike Foxtrot and Serial? And there's Double Tap as well, of course. There's some really interesting stuff going on in how to balance these perks, but in general, if you're playing the game at legend difficulty on Iron Man, Serial is going to output more for you than the other stuff every single time. And if you're struggling to make Serial work for yourself, you should try to work out how to make it work for you, because it's just one of the strongest perks in the game. Top 5 for sure. We went for depth perception PCS on this guy. Weapon upgrade, I don't have one, but in general I'm going scope, auto loader, and magazine on my sharpshooters, and the point is to just get as many shots as possible on the Serial turn. These guys can kill 12 guys in one turn, no problem. Depth perception PCS to help with... Actually, let's talk about depth perception PCS a little bit more. This gives me +5 aim and... It scrolled away and there's no way to get it back. Thanks, interface. It gives me +5 aim and reduces target's dodge by 25 when I'm elevated above the target. And you can go for a perception PCS for more than 5 aim, but on this guy with 100 aim already, he's going to be capping out on chance to hit fairly often, and so having extra aim isn't really that great compared to the -25 dodge reduces the chance considerably that he's going to graze against something like a snake with good dodge value. And because he's based around making Serial chains work, anytime that he grazes is pretty bad for us. If he's shooting something with 8 HP and grazes for 6, we could lose 50 damage in that turn. we could lose more than 50 damage in that turn, actually. So getting that 25 dodge removal is a really big deal, and that's why we go depth perception on the sharpshooters. All right, let's talk about Remy. So Remy, thank you. Have a good day. Oh, I don't get a kiss. Yeah, I see. Good day. All right, so small squad missions, stealth missions, are a very big thing. Like, they're very controversial. Lots of people don't like them. Lots of people do like them. I personally am fine with them. I played the game through development, so there were times when small squad missions were stronger than this and times when they were less strong than this. And I think that where they're at right now is like fine by me. But I think because it's a new thing in Long War II, a lot of people have very, very loud opinions about whether they like it or not, because like our Long War II audience is XCOM 2 players, right? And the things that XCOM 2 really doesn't have that Long War II has in spades is a strategic layer and small squad missions. So there are lots and lots of people who really dislike or really like the strategic layer, and lots of people who really like or dislike the small squad missions. Those are very polarized feedback sorts of things. So in this campaign, I went AWC first. I don't like, a lot of people think that you're meant to go GTS first and train Shinobis and specialists and beat small squad missions, and I haven't really found that to be true. That was a crutch that I relied on for a while I was learning the game, but if you manage the strategic layer well and manage your roster well, I think you get quite a lot more out of AWC first to get the wound time reduction, to power through. Like, you take a lot of wounds in April, in my experience, deaths as well. And also the AWC lets you start training pistol perks and like very early, and those perks can actually make a really big difference early in the game. Now, you miss out on officers from the Guerrilla Tactics School, but you can pick them up eventually. And anyway, this is all a roundabout way of saying that stealth missions for me were a little bit harder than they would have been if I was training a ton of extra Shinobis out of the Guerrilla Tactics School right from the start of the campaign. Because I was losing a good number of soldiers in April and May, I didn't have extra rookies sitting around that I could recruit and just train into Shinobis once I got the Guerrilla Tactics School either. Like, every soldier for the first 4 months of the campaign pretty much that I had access to was going on combat missions, and a lot of the time dying. I think 41 soldier deaths or something in this campaign. So, Remy bailed me out pretty hard. Like I said earlier, I don't play with radio relays without beating the network tower, so I need like 800 to 1,000 more intel to beat a campaign than I would if I was allowed to build those network towers, radio relays, wherever I wanted. And Remy generated quite a lot of that intel for me. He has an advanced speed PCS to make him run faster. Sometimes I'll take defensive perks on Shinobis, but damn good ground just wasn't very appealing to start with. And soldier abilities, this is just a very normal stealth Shinobi. You can go Infighter instead of Lone Wolf if your Shinobi is really all about stealthing and has good dodge already, because you start to actually be able to stand next to things and not die potentially. But Lone Wolf for the plus 10 defense is probably better in general. Shadow Step's actually okay as well. In like the second half of the campaign, a lot more enemies start deploying on Overwatch, and sometimes if you get Green Alert patrolled into, you'll get enemies deployed on Overwatch as well on small squad missions, so having the Shinobi able to run through Overwatch fire is nice. It didn't matter quite as much in this campaign, because with only one Shinobi, I got to equip him with like Warden armor and plates and stuff without feeling even slightly bad about it, and so he would just run through Overwatches if they came up, which they didn't because he was a beast. Beast of a man, Remy. What else is there to talk about on this tree? I think this is, other than Corporal, I don't think there are many real things that you care about for a stealth Shinobi. I do want to say though, I've built like a Shinobi who got 2 very good defensive AWC perks, and then her 3rd defensive AWC perk was Close Combat Specialist, and I actually reassigned perks on her in the AWC to get different starting perks, I'm pretty sure, and built her as a combat tank, and she was completely broken. If you go for a hard target and tactical sense with the numbers that they're at right now, you can put a Shinobi with evasive like anywhere on the map and they just will refuse to die. And it's not that bad a strategy. The problem is that they don't output very good damage. So if you get an early tier 2 sword that could help with that, you can go for Blade Master fairly easily in that build. You could also argue for Hunter's Instincts and go for pistols. I think that if you have higher aim, that's probably a little bit better. Shinobis are quite good at using pistols. If you're going to go for pistols, you can go for Shadow Strike instead of Evasive as well and have their face-off be a lot of damage dealing. But they don't have Bring 'em On, and they don't have Center Mass, so you have to be clever about it to get Hunter's Instincts proccing quite a lot if you're going for that to make it really, really, really good. Anyway, the Shinobi tree is really flexible for building combat soldiers out of, and I think the main reason that people aren't doing that right now is that they think that they should just stealth with Shinobis, which is like a winning strategy. So, I mean, go for it if that's your thing, but you're definitely allowed to build Shinobis for combat, and I think that they're quite strong. +3 mobility on Remy because because LOL, see you guys later, basically. I never researched spider suits, or he'd probably be in a spider suit, but I couldn't afford like any of that stuff. I think I got 1 supply raid this campaign and 1 HQ. It's a very, very, very low economy campaign. Low profile. I wouldn't take low profile. All right, Marco Sono Costa. Marco was a member of the B team that almost squad wiped. It was an amazing mission. Definitely one of the highlights of the campaign. I just got obliterated by variants every single turn for like 5 turns in a row, with the culmination of it all being 4 of my soldiers bleeding out on the ground, but me feeling like, no, it was 3 of my soldiers bleeding out or dead on the ground out of 6. But me feeling like my 3 remaining soldiers could probably win the mission, which gets me like all of the Predator armor and laser weapons that were on my soldiers back, or else I'm losing them, and obviously gets me the troop column rewards as well. And Marco Sono, in a fairly unsatisfying twist of fate, he had a laser pistol and he had his pistol perks, and I'm pretty sure he managed to set himself on fire. Either that or the AI shooting a flashbang at him set him on fire. So yeah. What am I going to take over low profile on my combat tank? Ghostwalker or Cutthroat, yeah. Alright, so Marco Sono, let's look at his AWCs. He's a pretty normal assault. I like to make my assaults out of high aim soldiers. I think that people see shotgun and they think aim's not that valuable, but assaults are better than any class in the game at turning aim into damage, as far as I know. You can argue for situations where sharpshooters and gunners can be better if the situation falls correctly, but in a general like 6 XCOM versus 16 aliens sort of situation, assaults are just so flexible and so good at killing stuff. And the fact that Yellow Alert is existing in this game, I think a lot of people think that that means you have to like bundle up and cover and hide from the enemies who are moving in. What it actually means, as I experience playing the game more and more on Legend difficulty, is that you need your soldiers to have good armor. You need to expect that they can take wounds. and you're actually able to move more flexibly through combat without worrying quite as much, because if you pull a pod on your turn, the actions that they take on their turn aren't actually as many more actions as they would have taken just by patrolling into you from their yellow alert. It also means that as you fight combat, the pods around you get sucked in by the yellow alert, which means that once the suckage in has happened, you actually have a lot of tiles that you can run into which reveal Fog of War, which you've never seen before, but which you can be fairly confident is safe because a pod there would have already patrolled into you. So assaults, once you get really adept at handling yellow alert, and it helps to have like dense smoke and sting grenades in case it goes wrong, because it can, generally are really, really, really good in this game right now, in my opinion. And I run up to pods and accidentally pull stuff in Fog of War very regularly, and a lot of my viewers are like, lol, assaults suck, you pulled a pod that wouldn't have... But that pod was going to patrol into me on their turn and shoot my guys. So I'm really generally pretty okay with pulling it now and being able to know that it's there and flashbang it or hunker against it or kill it if I have enough actions left. And that's generally what my experience is with assaults. They're, I think, the most consistently best class in the game at using pistols as well, assuming that they roll good enough aim like Marco Sono has. And so Marco Sono was a soldier that I trained very early on with pistol perks. Fanfire isn't turn ending, which means that you can go... Okay, let's say that I'm not going to move. With an assault right now, I can actually go like quick draw, just a non-ending attack with a pistol, close encounters. I can then press run and gun. So I have 2 actions remaining after I press run and gun. I can fanfire. I'm now at 5 shots for the turn. I can lightning hands. I'm at 6 shots. And then I have another shot because of the close encounters and the run and gun. And I can actually take 7 shots in a turn with an assault with the rule set up right now with pistol perks on the assault. Assaults also get, as we look at their abilities, close and personal, which is extremely strong with pistols. It lets you crit a lot with them, which increases your damage a lot. Killer instinct, pretty strong with close and personal. And yeah, this is my general assault build, with the exception that I think Fortify is fine over Killer Instinct, especially if you're getting mag early. I think that Killer Instinct's a great perk to grab if you're going to be stuck on lasers for a while in your campaign, and I was struggling to really get a good foothold in the mid game and was worried about being able to pull off mags. I was thinking I might actually have to skip all the way to coil because I went for an early lab and was very low economy. Everything ended up working pretty well in the campaign. I was able to get mags, so I definitely wouldn't have minded having Fortify here. It's a very, very valuable perk. It's another one of those perks which, like Serial, this is a really, really hard thing to work out the value of if you're not extremely, extremely adept at understanding what's going on in combat. And so this is going to be a harder perk to really feel like you're making good use of on like Veteran or something. But again, on Legend, this perk is balanced very aggressively, and if you're good enough to make really good decisions with it, it's going to reward you. Yes, Killer Instinct, the way that it works with Run and Gun is very, very good. So if you are going to Killer Instinct, you want to take your pistol shots after you hit the Run and Gun button. And the way that Close Encounters works with Run and Gun right now, it cannot be used after Run and Gun is activated, but I can move somewhere, shoot something with Close Encounters, and then activate Run and Gun afterwards, which is silly, and it's a large part of why assaults are so good right now. Taking Slugshot, I talked at length when I was talking about my gunner build about how my team this campaign is not very good at medium range. I don't have many rangers, I don't have many gunners, I don't have many grenadiers, and so Slugshot creates a lot more flexibility for your assaults. It actually, a lot of people don't realize this, but it pierces 2 armor points as well, so even if you're right next to something, if you have to like kill a muton in mid game, slugshotting it gives you 2 more damage on the shot, which is really, really, really nice. 2 more damage on a 3-turn cooldown is, I mean, that's almost the center mass, as well as the fact that you're taking a shot at long range with a shotgun with no aim penalty, which is enough for me to pick that perk at Lance Corporal by itself, probably. I've always found that there are other ways to deal with overwatches, so I've never been a huge fan of lightning reflexes. And then the arc thrower I've found to just not... It doesn't do what assaults are good at. The arc thrower actually does what it does very well, but it isn't what assaults are good at. And so I've never really found the arc thrower assault to be great. I've tried to make it work, and it can work. It can do some really remarkably cheesy and overpowered and broken things, and I hope that Chain Lightning does not have infinite targets in the next patch of the game, because like it can really, really break tactical at some point. But for almost the entirety of the campaign, it just doesn't do enough. And once you get to Master Sergeant, I'm not sure that I lost the soldier in tactical combat after I got to Master Sergeants in this game. No, I did. I lost 2 on Waterworld. But in general, once I get to Master Sergeant, the tactical game's more on lockdown, and so my builds are very, very conscious of what my soldier needs to do to be strong at like Corporal or Sergeant or Staff Sergeant, and I don't think that the Arc Thrower perks create very good Sergeants. What else is there to talk about here? I think Formidable is one of the strongest perks in the game, especially on an assault. We've talked about how we're going to be hanging them out to dry quite often and pulling extra pods, and the fact that I can put 4 armor on this soldier pretty easily really helps make that okay. Close Combat Specialist was actually bad for me this campaign, I think, which is like, I think it's another one of the top 5 perks in the game, in my opinion. But yeah, like Gimendong just said, I actually had an assault mind controlled on Waterworld and then ran a soldier within 4 tiles of them while they were mind controlled. In case it's not apparent to you yet, that causes the mind controlled assault to shoot them with a very large shotgun, and lethal, and it was lethal. That was the second death on Waterworld for me. Close Combat Specialist is really, really good because so many enemies in this game like to run toward you. It was great in Long War 1 because of like Exalt missions and the fact that you could run up to enemies and they'd respect your flanks and try to run away from you. But the way that the AI works in this game, if you're close to an enemy, a lot of enemies are okay with just standing there and shooting you in the face. And so Close Combat Specialist is... It actually does stuff even if they fire at you. So it's like... It's okay in that situation, but it's even better in the situation where like you're hunkered down in dense smoke or whatever and enemies are flowing in, pouring in toward you. You're just gonna shoot like 5 faceless, 3 drones, 2 berserkers, and a couple of stun lancers in 1 turn with Close Combat Specialist, and you're gonna ask Steven, how did you can't reload during your turn, how did you do that? And it's because Close Combat Specialist is just that broken. I'm gonna stand by it. Something impossible in the rules system will happen every time because that's what this perk does. It's been absolutely campaign changing for me on HQs in the past. It's been campaign changing for me just in regular little skirmishes as well. It's actually just straight up broken the game on an invasion for me before, where I worked out the 2 places that reinforcements could drop on the invasion and just put Close Combat Specialists on them, and I could farm infinite corpses for like as long as I wanted. I actually lost that campaign, but I only went for an hour. Maybe if I'd farmed corpses for 3 days or something, I would have won, who knows. And lethal over Street Sweeper might actually be the most like controversial pick on this tree, because Street Sweeper is broken as all hell. It's a very, very, very strong perk. Hey Oga, how's it going? Lethal's just better. Street Sweeper is great for dealing AoE to clustered enemies, and it's just not something that I have to spend a Master Sergeant perk on to be good at, honestly. Sting grenades are really good at dealing with clustered enemies. Um, Rockets and flamethrowers, just their base damage values without doing anything else, are already pretty good at dealing with clustered enemies. Obviously, you can street sweep to start an engagement, and that's really exciting. But there are like a zillion other ways to deal with the like concealment ambush at the start of the mission, and they're all pretty good. And yeah, I actually took Street Sweeper on one assault this campaign, and like it was okay, but it definitely strengthened my resolve and opinion that lethal is a better perk here. Um, Street Sweeper is something that needs support to really be strong, and in my team composition at least, the abilities which I'm trying to support are more serial on my Sharpshooters, and really it's more like fanfire and face-off and close encounters on my assaults. I don't need Street Sweeper. It doesn't really do more than they're already doing in almost all combat situations. These guys can shoot 7 times in one turn without taking that perk. How many reasonable scenarios are there where you need much more than that? All right. Yeah, Gimendong points out you can actually like engage on a pod by just running into the middle of them with close combat specialist. You don't even need to be in stealth to do it, which is sort of hilarious. If you can run far enough to get to the middle of them from out of vision range, you can like spot them with a Shinobi and then just run into the middle. Is really funny. Close combat specialist, I hope will get nerfed because it's really, really strong. I really love the perk, but it's really, really strong. All right, Floja. Floja is a soldier who I looked at the start of the campaign, and I was like, this is one of the soldiers who's going to carry this campaign. And the reason is this -10 defense and the massive dodge value that he started with. This is a soldier who's going to draw fire away from my other soldiers, and it's just not going to deal damage to him because it's going to graze him over and over and over again. And he rolled technical. I didn't like pick that for him, but I was pretty okay with him leveling up to technical. We went for a very, very, very tanky build. Suppression, Fortify, Formidable, and I don't think I got any AWCs on him. Walkfire, which is a very strong perk on a technical with Shredder ammo. Anyway, Floja was always going to be somebody who is going to sit in the front line and just soak up fire but not really do that much, and there's room for those soldiers in this campaign for sure. But because of that fact, I ended up going with officer abilities on him. He managed to stay healthy quite a while, which is absurd, but stuff was shooting at him and it just wasn't really hitting him and dealing damage to him. So he was healthy enough that I could train officer perks all the way up to field commander while also getting him up to master sergeant, which if you do the math on how many perks there are here, that's like a considerable amount of training time. And yeah, these are the officer perks that I went with. Oscar Mike is like really, really, really strong, like shouldn't be second lieutenant levels of strong. If you're going for like a Shinobi to help get rebels and stuff out on jailbreaks or things like that as an officer. But because of this being a technical and the technical not having that much to do once his consumables are gone on longer missions, and it being sort of awkward to use the consumables sometimes even on shorter missions, we went for focus fire here at second lieutenant. I think I used it once in the campaign. Like neither of those perks are that great in general. Incoming at first lieutenant, basically incoming is a free action, and that's why I pick it over get some. Again, neither of them are great, but incoming, if you understand enemy AI trees fairly well, you can predict fairly well in this game when you're going to get grenaded. It's going to happen when your soldiers are clustered up and when enemies aren't flashbanged. And neither of those things happened very much for me with this composition because I have like assaults running everywhere, so they're not clustered, and then my backline is composed of sharpshooters who are like a really long way away on rooftops, so they're not clustered. So it was usually fairly obvious when I was vulnerable to a grenade and fairly easy to remember to hit incoming, and I got some pretty good value out of it this campaign. At captain, I think I used jammer once. But fallback with the like sort of RNG nature of the move is a very scary move to make. and sometimes the AI on it gets a little bit weird. So we went Jammer at Captain. It's okay. It's not amazing. Collector is the super, super clear choice for me at Major with my house rules because I need about 800 intel more than regular people, like I said, so the intel is invaluable. I think that Lead by Example's a potentially strong perk on like a 100 aim ranger is probably what you want. If you get a 100 aim ranger officer, Lead by Example seems okay, but Collector is really, really strong and doesn't require you to have that ridiculous officer, so I prefer Collector. At Lieutenant Colonel, I really like Fire Discipline. Like I said, we had an Overwatch gunner, we had assaults who have close combat specialist fire. We are always taking Overwatches against pods which run into us just over and over and over again. So lots of reasons to like Fire Discipline, and Defilade is okay, but if my soldiers are dying, it's likely because their cover got blown up, or they were out of cover and stuff patrolled into them, or they're flanked, or etc., right? Like yellow alert actions which pull from your flank, etc., etc., etc. I just don't think that the 5 defense from cover is that important. You can already, if you are on cover, you can hunker and dense smoke and have a soldier with high defense to begin with, and maybe aid protocol if you have a specialist who's alive, which was difficult for us to have this campaign, but sometimes it happened. And you can get the defense of that soldier up pretty well. So yeah, I slightly like Fire Discipline here over Defilade, but I think Defilade is okay. Infiltrator over Air Controller because this is a big squad leader. I think that Air Controller is actually pretty exciting on a Shinobi officer if you happen to train one that high. I didn't get even close to getting a Shinobi up to Colonel in this campaign, not even a tiny little bit. But Infiltrator is key for late game to get your squads through the quest missions at the end of the campaign and stuff like that. So that's what we went with there. And then Combined Arms over Scavenger. I found that by the time I have a field commander, the bonus alloys and Illyrium from Scavenger just aren't really that appealing. I'm just ready for my team to end the game by the time that I pick field commander perks, and so I've been going Combined Arms pretty much every time. Won't having +5 defense cause the AI to take different actions because their hit chances are lower. Sometimes, yeah. Not necessarily in a good way, though. Alright, did I talk about his actual perks? I don't think I did yet. We talked about the fact that he's taking tanky perks, and I'm going to show you a different specialist with a very different build very soon. At Tech Sergeant, Incinerator, the extra range on the flamethrower is just really, really important. I don't think that the +1 damage is that valuable on the flamethrower, which is the main thing that Fire and Steel is giving damage to. Or the rocket, really, because the rocket's mainly about shredding armor and removing cover, or the bunker buster is just about removing cover, and the flamethrower is largely about setting things on fire. So Fire and Steel can do very good damage, but in this composition, like I've said, I wanted damage from other soldiers. Technicals have good base damage values and very good CC or cover removal on their abilities. So Quick Burn for Gunnery Sergeant is about setting things on fire better. It's largely why I went for Incinerator, the fact that I can pick up Quick Burn at Gunnery Sergeant. We didn't really want Tactical Sense on this soldier because, like I've said earlier, he has infinite dodge. We want stuff to shoot at him. And Salvo is a very awkward perk to try to really make work on a technical, and I've never worked out a good way to do it, even on a technical which I spec specifically for rockets. It just doesn't really feel that great, honestly. And at Master Sergeant, Firestorm's pretty strong, but again, that's more about supporting the technical, doing really fun things, and this guy is the guy with command. If I'm going for Firestorm, I'm likely to want to command this soldier to get a really good one placed in a really good place, and it's going to be sort of dangerous to run him forward, and I'm more happy with him sitting in the mid lines, shooting bunker busters at things to uncover them for my sharpshooters. I got 2 very good sharpshooters this campaign, and I was more than happy to make them work and let them kill all the enemies for me. So that's the reason for Bunker Buster there. There's so much flexibility in the technical tree right now based on what your squad can actually do as the campaign progresses. And let's show you what Jane Kelly is up to. I'll show you AWCs first. She got a lot of pistol perks despite having mediocre aim. I just had some extra time. I had 2 Master Sergeant Technicals. They're not that amazing late in the game. They're very strong early game carries and very good tanks later in the game if you build them right, but they're not like I have to bring 2 Technicals on every mission or something. So she was sitting around training pistol perks for a while later on in the game. They're not amazing on a 74 aim soldier, but they certainly didn't hurt, and certainly got some good use out of them here and there. And Jane Kelly's abilities look very, very, very different, except for Tech Sergeant, Gunnery Sergeant, and Master Sergeant. I guess those stayed the same. So for Fire in the Hole and Biggest Booms, and the point of that is to make her rocket good early in the campaign. It's that simple. A good rocket can kill half of the enemies on a mission in May. Like, they're very, very, very potentially strong if you set them up and let them be. And so that's what I'm going for with Lance Corporal and Corporal, Fire in the Hole, and Biggest Booms. And at Sergeant, I decided to go for Burnout over Shredder. Now, usually I'd go for Shredder, and I talked earlier about how I was very low on a ways to shred armor. I wasn't able to afford acid grenades in this campaign. I didn't have many Grenadiers in general, although I didn't necessarily know that at this point in the campaign. I think I had a few that I thought were going to get to high level, and they just died. Which was unfortunate. But I took Burnout over Shredder because I had a lot of soldiers dying, and I just wanted this soldier to be able to survive. Burnout's a very good defensive perk. I wasn't at a point in the campaign yet where I cared about armor very much. I was just fighting mutons and mechs who have 2 armor, and I can hit them with a frag grenade because we're still early in the campaign, so there are still soldiers carrying just regular frags in their equipment. So Shredder is a perk that you take early, but it isn't really strong until late, and often that makes it a judgment call based on how the campaign's going, whether you want to go for it or something else. In this campaign, I went for Burnout for the defensibility on the soldier, and I'm glad that I did. She got some pretty nice smoke cover here and there in the campaign, but it wasn't a huge thing by any stretch of the imagination. Formidable, again, at Staff Sergeant for all the same reasons that I've talked about Formidable before, and Incinerator, Quick Burn, and Bunker Buster, basically for the same reason that I put them on Floja. I gave her a defense PCS to help stop her getting shot, and I think I just sort of had it. I didn't have that many PCSs, and when I had a PCS that was reasonably good for Soldier, I just gave it to them. Alright, so I had the defensive AWC Sharpshooter, the Guardian Sharpshooter, who turned out not to work at all because of Long Watch, and the counterbalance to him in this campaign was the offensive AWC perk Sharpshooter with Locked On, Executioner, and Bring 'Em On. Absurdly strong. Locked On has some really great interactions with pistol perks. It doesn't do a whole lot for you just shooting your sniper rifle, but if I lightning hand something, I can lightning hands it, rapid fire, lightning hands it, rapid target it, and then shoot it with a sharpshooter sniper rifle, and all of a sudden I have 20% greater chance to hit with it. She also picked up Face Off very early, and with Bring 'Em On, yeah, she's able to crit quite a lot because she has aggression in her perks tree as well. And so with 98 aim, these face-offs were sometimes doing some pretty absurd things in the campaign. I wasn't able to get her all the way through the pistol tree. I would have loved to have Fanfire on her, but since she rolled Gunslinger at tier 5, I sort of had to stop. Gunslinger is a 6-day train for a perk, which doesn't do very much on this soldier in particularly. It can do some cool things on a closer range soldier, but there's not much reason to think that Squeaks was going to be in Gunslinger range of anything in this campaign. So we got these 4, and then we moved on. She has Depth Perception for the same reasons that Squad Wipe does. And Her tree basically looks like his, except that she went Deadshot over Long Watch. And yeah, she killed a lot of stuff this campaign. A very, very large amount of stuff. I was very lucky to have 2 high aim sharpshooters. I want to mention really quickly, this might not make sense to you with me just trying to explain it this quickly, but when you're leveling up soldiers, you get a deck of 8 cards, and each card is a different class. And as you level up a soldier outside of like the GTS leveling up, it picks a card out of that deck without replacing it. So if I pick Sharpshooter, the Sharpshooter card's gone. And then if I pick the next soldier and it's a Ranger, the Ranger card is gone. And then I pick the next soldier and it's an Assault, and the Assault card is gone, and so on until you have only 1 card left in the deck. And you know with certainty that the next soldier that you level up, the next rookie that you level up in your barracks, is going to be that class. So if you have soldiers in your barracks you really want to be a particular class, you can sometimes engineer situations just from the luck of the draw, where when you're leveling them up, you know with certainty that they're going to be the class that you want. And I'm pretty sure that I did something like that with one of these sharpshooters early in the campaign. I got 7 of the cards out of the deck, and the only one left was Sharpshooter, and I was like, oh, that's sort of like a rookie with 75 aim to be a sharpshooter. And then I, had 2 really good sharpshooters in the campaign. Sharpshooters are pretty vital to dealing good long-range damage, and they're very easy to combo with technicals and grenadiers. So given that technicals and grenadiers are very expensive, but technicals are really, really good early game carries who fall off late game. Given that you still are going to have technicals sitting around, it's really nice to build a comp around sharpshooters to take advantage of like the Master Sergeant Bunker Buster and all that. The reason that center mass is in the middle is that there's an HTML parser which looks to see if the line has center in it and then centers it if it does. Fun facts about XCOM 2 code. All right, Ellie Chan was an Assault. I really love the color scheme on Ellie's soldier. It's my favorite soldier outfit. I would totally wear pants with this color scheme on them, 100%. Just like, I don't know, something about the specific colors just make me feel at peace and happy. So, picked up Resilience on an Assault. Resilience is a very, very nice perk. Minus 50 penalty to critical hit chances is huge, and that's a lot of survivability and a much lower damage per shot that you're taking when you get shot at. Definitely recommend picking up Resilience anytime you roll it on somebody who's likely to get shot at in your front lines. And then I got Fanfire and Lightning Hands on her, which I think are the best pistol perks for Assaults, and she was busy the rest of the time. Ellie is a somewhat new soldier. You can see she only has 15 missions, and she came in to help bolster the roster after a lot of nasty wounds and did a really, really good job. Solid aim. I put mobility on her, which I think is probably what you want to go for in general on Assaults, although I have a soft spot for both aim and dodge on them. I think that both of those are good too. And her abilities are actually identical to the last Assault that I talked about, but not the next Assault that I'm going to talk about. So I picked these for all the same reasons that I did with Marco Sono's Assault. All right, pack of Corgis. Another Assault with slightly higher aim. I thought that he was going to take off a lot more than he did, but he took some nasty wounds in the campaign, and that coupled with staying in the AWC for 7 pistol perks meant that he only actually went on 15 missions. Managed to get Sprinter on him. I don't think that Flashbanger is quite strong enough to justify training for 4 days on an Assault. It's not that flashbangs aren't good, because flashbangs are extremely good. It's that your other actions with Assaults are so good that you just don't really have enough time to flashbang. And if your Assaults, if you have a lot of active enemies, you probably want to hunker with your Assault and flashbang with someone else, because your Assault's probably in the front line, very exposed in that situation. So I gave Flashbanger a pass, went for all the pistols, and grabbed Sprinter, plus mobility as the PCS. Pack of Corgis was a high aim, low mobility Assault, and a lot of my Assaults were high aim and low mobility in this campaign, so that's why I have a lot of mobility PCSs on them. And the only thing that changed in this build is that we went for Street Sweeper, and I wasn't really that pleased with it. And I think I already talked about that, so we don't have to talk about the assault tree 3 times. We can just move on to the next soldier. All right, specialist tree is really, really, really interesting in my opinion. Solo Castillo, 13 missions, 2 kills. So this is a soldier who I ran through stealth missions all the way up to Master Sergeant, basically. And so I wasn't really planning on her being on Waterworld, but it just sort of turned out that I didn't have 12 real soldiers. So there she was. If you're going to stealth mission with specialists, it doesn't matter that much what perks you take. Otherwise, though, every single one of these level ups is a pretty interesting question. Yeah, the cool under pressure and close combat specialist combo is sort of cool. It's gimmicky though, Game and Dong. It does something that is already really good, slightly better, and realistically, when your close combat specialist is going off a lot, you're in a pretty good situation, I've found. So I don't like, your AWC has a lot of stuff to do in a campaign, and I don't think you should just train really trashy defensive perks just for the chance at that cool under pressure. But like, it's a good thing to point out. All right, so at Lance Corporal on Legend, combat protocol I think is pretty standard at the start of a campaign so that you can kill drones. And it's like very, very specific, but drones are really nasty and combat protocol is really good at killing them. If you get an upgraded gremlin, combat protocol actually deals really good damage even at the late game against robots, and so it doesn't really fall off. I only got like 1 tier 2 gremlin in this campaign, so I didn't always have it on my specialist if I had a specialist on a combat mission. But still, like, in theory, combat protocol is sort of fine. Because I don't have like a halo bullet sort of strategy, if I fail to kill something, it often ends up with 1 or 2 hit points left because I'm dealing just tons and tons of damage with my shots. And so combat protocol can kill stuff a decent amount of the time here and there, even if it's only dealing 2 damage, but it's like not an unreasonably strong late game perk. It's just okay. Medical protocol is like, that's the perk that you want on Waterworld. It's really hard to take a Lance Corporal perk because you want it on Waterworld though. Like, that's just not really how the game works. you have to pick a Lance Corporal perk to get you to Waterworld, and in order to get to Waterworld, you have to pick a Lance Corporal perk which is gonna like get you through April, and sort of go from there. Take baby steps. Don't start building for Waterworld at the start of the campaign. And cool under pressure, I think that the specialist Overwatch build is sort of cool. It's not necessarily that it's really strong, because I wouldn't really say that it was. It's that the other options at Staff Sergeant and Tech Sergeant and Gunnery Sergeant are all... I mean, the soldier is really interesting because honestly every perk on this tree other than Revival Protocol and Airdrop and Restoration, I think all the other perks that I've taken here are pretty mediocre to bad. And it's not even like I think there are better perks to really take. Now, specialists are actually still really good. Aid Protocol, which they just have at Squatty, is really good. Haywire Protocol, which again, they just have at Squatty, is really good. But like, it's their ability to turn a drone into a mimic beacon for a turn, which makes them really exciting. And these other perks that you take, like, they just don't do that much. So I've talked a lot about Staff Sergeant perks. I think that Field Surgeon is actually a really nice pick because, like I've said earlier, late game and like the latter half of the campaign, you're largely trying to manage wound times. You sort of stop having soldiers die, and so just a little reduction in wound time, that's all it is, but just a little bit helps you out on the strategic pressures, getting squads ready to go faster to play more missions. Failsafe is like, I don't think failsafe does really anything in a combat situation. You just don't care about the penalty for failing a hack in a combat situation very much at all. I think it is actually bugged with skull mining, I'm pretty sure. But even if it wasn't or isn't anymore, or I'm a crazy person because sometimes I forget what things happen in this game, I skull mined like one thing in this campaign and I got 800 more intel than is required to beat the campaign for a normal person. Like, it's just, skull mining is just not a very necessary part of the campaign, and if you're picking a perk for skull mining, then like, enjoy your first world problems, basically, is my opinion. Failsafe has a little bit of value in stealth missions because you can try to hack the towers on the missions and you don't like lose concealment or incur the penalty if you fail. It also has some like anti-value. If you go on a troop column and you want to summon some reinforcements to get more corpses, you can no longer possibly fail to hack, so that sucks a little bit. And a lot of the hacks on towers and stealth missions you can engineer such that you can try them out even without failsafe. And the timer is a really big deal on those missions already, so you may not have time to try them even with failsafe. So failsafe's like a very mediocre perk. It's fine. I don't hate that it's here. Like, some people can take it, sure. And then Ever Vigilant is like, if I move twice, I might take a mediocre Overwatch fire shot at something, probably a zombie. I don't know. So none of these are amazing. If I went cool under pressure, I could have like slightly better Ever Vigilant and Sentinel and a much better kill zone. But kill zone really only works convincingly as your concealment ambush tool, and there are just way better ways to concealment ambush in this game. You don't really need another perk to help you kill the pod that you're concealment ambushing again. It's generally speaking already dead. And then Sentinel is Sentinel's so-so. Yeah, I mean, Sentinel makes your mediocre Ever Vigilant shot twice as good, I guess. So congratulations. Obviously, I took it. I think it's fine. I think that Trojan's absolutely not a perk. I've never. No, don't bother. I think that you can. I think you can, if you have failsafe in Trojan, Haywire Protocol drones while in stealth and just wait for them to die when they explode when you lose the hack. I think. I've never tried this, and it doesn't seem like a thing that would be a very convincing, like, it doesn't sound like a strong coup for you. Like, I can kill the drones now. Hooray. It only takes 15 minutes of my life, and I only had to take a Staff Sergeant and Tech Sergeant perk to be able to do it. Anyway, Savior is obviously really, really strong if you're going for a med spec specialist, which I'm doing that in this campaign that I'm playing next. I'm playing it right now. I'm like a day into it. I think that medic specialists are like fine. They're, again though, like, really the broken thing that specialists do is use all of the things that they're allowed to do with Squatty. Aid Protocol is extremely strong, Haywire Protocol is extremely strong, and Mobile Hack is extremely strong, and all of those perks are here. So I'm struggling to make these sound exciting for you right now, and they're just like sort of okay. The big thing that Savior does is, even if you don't have medkit spec, you're likely to want to take Restoration at Master Sergeant because it's such a broken late game perk, and it's a Master Sergeant perk, so you're going to get it in the late game. You don't have to worry about it like being mediocre in early game. Not that it would be really strong in early game too, but you're probably taking Restoration at Master Sergeant in my opinion, and Savior combos with that really, really well. You can take full Override at Master Sergeant. It's like having a second Haywire Protocol that's slightly better. That's such a succinct way of saying how broken the Squatty Specialist perks are. This Master Sergeant perk is is like a slightly better version of the squatty perk you got for free. And that's exactly what full override is. I used to take capacitor discharge in vanilla just because I cared a lot more about alpha striking stuff and I wanted my specialist to have good damage output for one turn. Because in vanilla, a lot of missions are about having that one turn where you kill everything and you really want every soldier to operate at maximal efficiency. Long War 2 is not really about that, in my opinion, so I don't think that capacitor discharge is a better late game perk than restoration. Yes, I played a 3-day Papers, Please marathon today and lost within 30 seconds of starting. it was a good time. So that's my specialist. We went for advanced hacking as the PCS. I think that's pretty straightforward. And let's look at our Grenadier next. I wanted to have like 3 Grenadiers, and I wanted to be able to buy an advanced grenade launcher. And if wishes were horses, we would have 3 horses shaped like Grenadiers, and an advanced grenade launcher, which was usable with hooves. But that's not how the campaign turned out. My Grenadiers died. I was very poor and couldn't afford the advanced grenade launcher, and really couldn't justify it with only 1 Grenadier left anyway. So let's look at AWCs first. We went full pistol on Grenadier. I actually think this is really strong, and it seems really counterintuitive because it means that you can't carry as many grenades. But in most missions, you don't need all your grenades. You need a ton of grenades at like... Okay, there's a very small set of missions where not having the pistol is good. Because on a really small mission, you only need like 3 grenades. So you can fit a pistol, no problem, no issue at all. Hey, Brass, how's it going? And I don't know which soldier you're asking about the loadout of, David. By the time you get to Waterworld, if you're using a grenade all the time with your Grenadier, you're actually going to run out of grenades. And so it's actually really nice to have pistols on your Grenadier there so that your Grenadier can do some stuff when they don't want to use a grenade in that situation. So there's some like small segment of missions in between, like a 30 soldier supply raid, maybe your Cygate mission, maybe where you'd really prefer not to have the pistol and have 7 grenades on a Master Sergeant Grenadier, but it's a very small set of missions. And actually, I think that having the pistol here is really, really nice. She had decent aim, not the best aim ever. And this is what she ended up using. I think that you can... So these are both doubled, and the flashbang is just 1 sting grenade. I forget if I ended up going 3 sting grenades and only 2 incendiary grenades on Waterworld. I don't know. But anyway, this was my build this time around, and I think that there are tons of different ways to build Grenadiers, and the fact that you can build pistol perks in them, I think very few people have experimented a lot with pistol perks, and they give so much flexibility to classes, which people aren't really thinking about when they think about what builds can be okay. I went center mass on Grenadiers. I think it applies to dots for fire grenades, but I'm not sure. Boosted cores definitely does. I don't remember if it does or not. There are all sorts of weird interactions between damage over time on environmental grenades and perks, which don't really make sense to me. But anyway, we went for rapid deployment. Rapid deployment is just bonkers strong, extremely amazingly good. It's a free flashbang. That's basically what you're using it for. Sure, you'll run out of flashbangs eventually and it won't be a good perk anymore, but on most missions in the campaign, at that point you won already, more or less. The flashbang's really good on like the first turn of combat. That's where you're sort of deciding the flow of the battle on like a light mission or something like that, and being able to flashbang something and then frag grenade something else, or flashbang an incendiary something else, or whatever, flashbang and smoke your guys. All that stuff is really, really, really strong. Sapper is not that bad if you're going for lots of frags. Sapper's great. Sapper plays into like a very different strategy from mine. Assaults don't need Sapper because they can run next to things and just flank them without removing the cover, and they don't need the damage from frag grenades because they can just one-shot things. If I was going for a lot of rangers, then Sapper would be a little bit more inviting because rangers can't run next to things and flank them, and can't deal quite enough damage to one-shot things for most of the campaign. So the damage from the frag grenade is nice, and the cover removal is also nice. But I was more using frag grenades to shred enemies who were very high HP and get them low enough for Serial to reliably kill them. And both of those things were like super late in the game, and not things that I really cared about Sapper for. Okay. At Corporal, I think that Formidable is super, super obviously the pick here, and I feel like I have never heard anybody else saying that they like it, which is just like, well, except for X-Wings. But yeah, I just don't know why the general community has not caught on to how absurdly difficult it is to kill soldiers with a lot of armor. And this soldier has 3 armor just with these perks, doesn't have to dedicate an equipment slot to a tactical vest, although I probably would if I could afford them. I think I built 4 of them in this campaign, and then should have 4 armor, which would be even nicer. And yeah, the extra grenade just isn't that exciting. I don't know. People like heavy ordnance here because it gives them an extra fire grenade, and like, I just don't. Like, fire grenades aren't that good. I think people really love sting grenades too, and sting grenades are very good, but I don't think sting grenades are that good either. People get, maybe it's like the vanilla mindset carrying over, or maybe it's more true in lower difficulties or something, but people get really excited about very certain crowd control in this game, and that's what is really strong about the incendiary grenade. And it is really strong. I'm not going to contest that. It's an amazingly strong grenade, and that's what's really strong about sting grenades too, and they are really strong. But like, you can just flashbang stuff without sting grenades and it doesn't do anything either, especially if your soldiers have formidables, so when they like shoot you they deal 1 damage. And for most of the campaign anybody can flashbang, really, so you don't actually need your Grenadiers to be that good at throwing grenades, because flashbangs are so strong and everybody else is already really good at using flashbangs. Your Grenadiers are pretty nice as like midline tanky sorts of soldiers. They can hunker a lot of turns without you feeling that bad about it, especially if they have rapid deployment, so they can throw a grenade as well. They have access to very good early armor because they have Formidable at Corporal, and they're actually pretty good as pistol users. So having that mid-range soldier with the pistol is really nice, and that's the slot that I've found my Grenadiers really excelling in. I started all the way down the left side of the tree in 1.0, and those Grenadiers were pretty good. And then I went all the way down the right side of the tree pretty much in 1.1, and those Grenadiers were quite good too. And in 1.2, I'm under more and more stress. Like, there's more strategic pressure on me. I'm not as rich. I don't get as much of the great stuff that I have. I'm losing more soldiers early for whatever reason, and that means that I'm not able to just pick like the perfect class to fill every role in my team. And I need the soldier to do more for me than just use grenades sometimes. I need the soldier to be that mid-range tank who can pull the pistol out and kill stuff and all the rest of the things. And this Grenadier build really excelled for me more than any of the other more linear and one-dimensional builds ever have. This soldier can do so much stuff. Okay, so moving on, sting grenades at Staff Sergeant is pretty straightforward, just to make my flashbangs that extra bit better. It does do good stuff. It is really broken, and I think sting grenades should be nerfed. I just also think flashbangs are really broken and should be nerfed. That's all. Dense smoke is also really broken, and I think it should be nerfed. And like, when they say that it's been nerfed and you come to me and you're like, Steven, why did you nerf dense smoke? We loved it so much. I'm going to tell you, like, I am so upset that dense smoke is still so strong. It needs to be nerfed more. And I'm going to keep saying that until it like gives 5 defense or something. The no, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but this is such a strong ability. This is insane. Oh my, I can't look at. Oh my god. Look at what that does. Oh. For reference, for reference, I know I didn't take tactical sense on this soldier, but I can make an unkillable tank basically with tactical sense, as well as a few other perks. But this is a gunnery sergeant perk, which gives one soldier 20 defense situationally. Conditionally, it gives up to 20 defense. And then this perk here. Okay, smoke grenades are busted broken as well. They already give like 25 defense as an AoE for a consumable. Like, oh my, like these numbers are so big. But the fact that this gives another 20 defense in an AoE and this cloud lasts for multiple turns. Oh. So like the reason that people don't realize that dense smoke is broken beyond reason, like 7 dimensions past broken right now, is that they're not having to defend their soldiers because they're playing like 0% supply rates and then they're super rich, or they're playing on lower difficulties or whatever. Formidable is really strong and maybe they're taking that. I don't know. They're rushing exosuits and snowballing the campaign. The second the difficulty gets locked in, and I feel like I've achieved that with like house rules and stuff like that and everything, and your soldiers start getting shot at, like the fact that dense smoke is just like, if I ran through the window right now, it would be less broken than how dense smoke is at the moment. That fact becomes extremely clear as soon as the enemies start being able to shoot at you. All right. Paluard is probably my favorite viewer of all time. Kappa. So volatile mix gives, yeah, an extra. Really? Okay, whatever. It gives an extra 1 tile of radius on your grenades. It's not a complicated perk. It's very strong. You could go Ghost Grenade here. Ghost Grenade's a little bit gimmicky. I don't know how strong Ghost Grenade really is in like a practical situation. There are lots of gimmicky things you can do with stealth which are absurd when you pull them off. Like Chain Lightning as an initiator, like, oh, 24 enemies are stunned for 2 turns. Interesting. I wonder how the rest of the mission will go. Probably pretty well. And the temptation of Ghost Grenades that you can do that twice, basically. And maybe my next point is already obvious, but why exactly does one have to stun 24 enemies at once twice in a mission? I'm not like being reduced to giggling like a schoolgirl, thinking about what sort of world that's balanced in to begin with, but also like why somebody would pick Ghost Grenade planning to do it twice. Because anyway, but yeah, volatile mix isn't that strong unless you're trying to make incendiary grenades work, which I was in this case, and that's why I picked it. But it's like, okay, otherwise it's fine. Bombardier is not really necessary with support grenades because you already have such ridiculous long range on them. You can hit guys out of visual range with flashbangs, so if you need to clear overwatches, you got that covered. And then at Master Sergeant, I went for full kit for like 2 more grenades, basically, because I'm never going to use Combat Engineer and because Rapid Deployment's actually a better perk than Salvo. If Salvo were at Lance Corporal and Rapid Deployment were at Master Sergeant, I might take Rapid Deployment over full kit, and I might take Sapper over Salvo. I think like there is some definite tension in identifying which of those perks is stronger on this tree right now. And last but not least exactly, is my 103 aim ranger, guided by the +8 aim PCS. I think that rangers are the weakest class in the game right now. It's sort of funny. There's been there have been knee-jerk reactions about how sharpshooters are trash in like the first week that the game was released, before people got past like June and realized that sharpshooters are the most broken thing in existence. And there have been lots of threads about how technicals feel a little bit weak, and I mean, I understand that because technicals have a very odd power curve. They're very strong at the start of the campaign, and then they're actually pretty weak later. And I mean, that ends up with like you having lots of high level technicals and they don't really do anything anymore. And you have to understand that as you plan your roster and work out how you're going to progress in a campaign, that if you have lots of technicals and you're getting into late game, you like really need to start investing in like guys with serial, because you're going to be bunker bustering and it's going to deal like 3 damage and then you're going to have to kill a bunch of stuff or things like that. Rangers, everybody like loves rangers. Lots of people say that rangers are very strong and consistent soldiers. And I think that some of that is people playing on lower difficulties. Some of it is people not being super great at optimizing the other classes yet, because rangers are very stationary and they shoot twice a turn, and it's like pretty straightforward. It's not that complicated to do what a ranger does. Or they overwatch, sure. Or they overwatch and they overwatch 3 times. And you can actually do some really complex and cool stuff with overwatch, like ever vigilant plus roust plus rapid reaction potentially does some damage. But this stuff is really gimmicky, and when you compare it to like, what does bunker buster plus serial do, and you're like, oh, and then you think like, okay, but what about if I dash my ranger into fog of war to proc ever vigilant and then flush the enemies? And you're like, oh. And that's basically I mean, there's some cool stuff that you can do with this soldier, but it's just not that ridiculous. This ranger was actually really, really solid for this campaign. Vorus's Julianne. She had amazing aim. She showed up and performed well in the time when our roster was very sparse. And because we did have some bunker busters later on in the campaign, and because it was weird. Like, I had 3 Master Sergeant Assaults at the end of the campaign, but I never actually felt like I had enough stuff to kill the things that were running into me. Part of that's because my assaults, sometimes they get a little bit blasé, especially when I'm drinking while playing, which may have happened at some point in this campaign. And sometimes, like, you know, there's a berserker mauling my sharpshooter, and it's like, oh, where's the assault to shoot the berserker 3 times and it's dead? And then I look at the map and the assault is like over there in the middle of 20 enemies, and but yeah, so like the ranger ended up always sort of having stuff to shoot and coming on missions, and didn't have time to grab pistol perks, or else she would have them. Didn't even have time to grab damn good ground, which I would be very happy to have on her, but dead shot for the +10 crit. I think that the biggest thing that rangers lack is crit chance, and so that was definitely worth picking up. And then perk-wise, Walkfire is a very, very good early game perk if you don't one-shot everything with shotguns. But, like, we've been over this before, right? So, I mean, I'm still happy to have Walkfire on my team. Floja actually had decent aim and had a Walkfire from his AWC. That's my technical who had Shredder. So I did have a Walkfire on the team. And so I went for close and personal. I think lots of people go for Walkfire here. Some people go for close and personal, and very few people go for covering fire. Covering fire actually, like, sort of makes your Overwatch worse because your shots go off against things which are in cover. And it's a questionable pickup, shall we say. But yeah, I went for a close and personal because I just wanted some more damage. The soldier has good mobility, so I wanted her to be able to run up to things and crit them and hopefully kill them. I went for locked on at corporal. I've never taken pump action on a ranger, but I like dream of the day that I will and it will be correct, and it just hasn't really come. I don't know, maybe it will someday. Well, let's not get into it. And then suppression is something that I have taken on rangers before, and it's like fine. I don't know. I didn't feel like I needed it here with a suppression gunner. I had a dedicated suppression gunner, and we've talked about that a long time ago, so maybe you remember or maybe you don't. So we went for Locked On, which is a very marginal increase to damage output when you're shooting stuff and not killing it the first time you shoot, which is like, that's the thing that Rangers are best at, shooting things and not killing them. So, yeah, I think that Locked On is fine. Aggression, center mass, cool under pressure. I've gone back and forth on aggression versus center mass. Center mass makes Rangers even better at shooting things and not killing them, in my opinion, and aggression makes it so that Rangers sometimes manage to actually kill the thing that they're shooting. So that's why I went with aggression here. I think it's hard to underestimate the value of like just killing something instead of dealing 10 damage to it and it being at 2 HP. And so, yeah, I went for aggression. One of the biggest problems with aggression on a ranger is that in extended fights, stuff can sort of get strung out, and rangers can often only have like 1 or 2 enemies who are actually in vision for them, so you're not necessarily getting the full bonus from it. That happens fairly regularly to my aggression rangers, and it's not a very happy thing. And then center mass is 1 additional point of base damage for all guns, so it's not a bad choice if you're going for pistols, but then again, aggression works fine with pistols too. I don't know. Both of these perks are semi-similar, and the main difference between them is that aggression increases the variance of your damage more, while center mass just increases the average of your damage. And so, like I said, I wanted more variance in my damage so that I could kill stuff more often, because rangers are very consistently not killing things for me in this campaign when I shoot with them. And Julian legitimately hit some really good crits in this campaign and killed stuff that I wouldn't have been able to kill with center mass. And there were missions where that like made a big difference in the outcome. So I was okay with that pick, but I wouldn't hate someone for taking center mass, and I would completely understand the reasons. A lot of people really like this Overwatch build, and I just like, it takes so long to get to Gunnery Sergeant. By the time my soldiers are at Gunnery Sergeant, I typically feel pretty strong in the tactical layer, and I'm not too worried about things anymore. So if you're building a soldier whose like keystone perk is at Rapid Reaction Gunnery Sergeant, like you really need this to be serial or something that strong to justify building a soldier who's like taking 1 shot a turn, 1.5 because of light 'em up, I guess. It's just, yeah, it's not really working for me. What else is going on here? You can take Fortify over Executioner. It's fine. Like I said, I wanted to up her damage variance so that she could kill stuff in 1 shot more often. And believe it or not, there are a lot of targets under 50% HP that a ranger is not going to kill in 1 shot consistently, especially getting further into the late game. Staff Sergeant is, I think, a pretty good place to put Executioner, where it's likely to be close enough to late in the game that you consider picking it up, even though it's not that valuable in like May or whatever. Hey, Bobster, thanks for the follow. Welcome to the stream. Hope you're enjoying the show. Really appreciate the support, Bobster. Man, I'm talking fast today. Usually that takes me about like 4 more seconds to get through. So, yeah, that's Executioner. It's like fine. Grazing Fire would be the complete opposite approach, and maybe that's more appealing on Rookie. You just deal damage a little bit more consistently with Grazing Fire. One of the big problems with Grazing Fire is that it has negative synergy with high aim, and you want your Rangers to have high aim. But the higher aim you have, the less often you miss, so the less often Grazing Fire has a chance to proc. So I take Grazing Fire on Gunners because it's at Lance Corporal, and if I have like a low aim Gunner at Lance Corporal, I'm not going to like ship them to the Gulag necessarily, because Gunners are very strong early in the game, and troop columns especially, and I want to make use of that soldier, even if eventually it doesn't turn into the best soldier ever. It's still fine. By the time that we hit Staff Sergeant on a Ranger, though, like, if I have a Ranger who made it to Staff Sergeant, you have to be a pretty compelling ranger to make it to staff sergeant. I don't have many low aim rangers who get this far into the campaign because they just don't have, like, all they do is shoot. So they really need good aim to be on the roster. Otherwise, they're babysitting havens and stuff like that. They're actually really, really good haven advisors. Like, that's something that you say to denigrate a class a lot. Like, oh god, this low aim sharpshooter is going to be a haven advisor. Rangers legitimately good haven advisors. On intel mini retells, especially the sawn-off shotgun is a really big deal because you can both barrels like a berserker or something. And I think like half of the mission schedules above strength 4 on any intel mini retells have a terror pod starting near your rebels, so berserker running into them happens all the time, and double barrels is amazing in that situation. But yeah, other than that, like if a ranger is getting this far into the campaign, probably has good aim, so probably not going grazing fire. I think fortify is okay, because I had so many assaults and technicals and grenadiers who were going to get shot at. I thought that I could get by with executioner here. If I'd had like 3 sharpshooters, maybe I go fortify. But I was really low on long range damage. When you consider that like it is possible for sharpshooters to get wounded, I want to train AWC perks on my sharpshooters, and sometimes I want to deploy 2 teams at once. Like, I was looking at squads who potentially just had no way to deal long range damage in this campaign, and so I really wanted this ranger to be a good mid to long range threat. At Tech Sergeant, Formidable here is feeling a little bit late to be really strong, and on a high aim soldier, it's not exactly what I want to be doing. This ranger, I'm sort of imagining that she's a sharpshooter and she just doesn't have squad sight, basically. So I'm just going for the offensive perks, I'm leaving the defensive perks alone, and I'm playing my missions with a priority on getting her and my gunner, who has suppression, into good cover where they're not going to die. And that's what I did throughout the campaign, and it worked pretty well for me. So bring him on, again, to increase the variance of my shots, to try to make a larger proportion of them actually kill the target outright. Rapid fire at Gunnery Sergeant. Rapid fire is very, very strong, and that's all there is to say about that. Is there one other thing to say about that? No. Maybe? Maybe. If you can get fanfire out of the AWC pistol perks, rapid fire, it's still really good. Yeah, it's still really good. I don't know though, like, because rapid fire is turn ending, you can almost find things that replace it and get away with picking tactical sense, which is really nice on a soldier who you don't want to get shot at, because tactical sense is going to make them not get shot at. You can even take rapid reaction here even without the Overwatch perks, and it can be fine. It just deals really good damage, like when you're overwatching and a pod patrols into you, for example, with a soldier with this much aim. You don't need all the Overwatch perks for it to be a good perk by itself. So in the past, I've flirted with taking rapid reaction here over rapid fire, and I think that would be fine. I've flirted with taking tactical sense on tankier soldiers, and I think that would be fine. It's nice that at Master Sergeant you can take rupture if you didn't take rapid fire and still have a very high damage shooting perk on your tree. When I do take rapid fire at Gunnery Sergeant, though, I think that combat fitness is the clear pick at Master Sergeant. Again, the stats are just very, very, very strong, and there isn't that much else to say about it. Some of you might not realize, but Rangers and Gunners actually have exactly the same Master Sergeant perks, and I picked combat fitness on both of my Master Sergeant, Rangers and Gunners this campaign, and it's because 4 aim, 1 mobility, 2 hit point, 4 will, and 4 dodge. It's really hard to like quantify for someone how strong that is. If you haven't played the game much, it's really hard to evaluate how strong it is. But the more that you play, the more you start to recognize how much that 4 aim is worth. And it's not necessarily because like you have one soldier who has combat fitness and one who doesn't. It's more like you have one sharpshooter with 100 aim and one with 96, and you really notice every time you're playing your turns, like, oh, this soldier doesn't have the certain shot that I need, or this soldier is 5 times more likely to fail to do what I want. which is weird, but like if someone has 99% chance to do something and the other person has 95% chance to do something, that's just a difference of 4 aim, but you're failing 5 times as often all of a sudden. And if you frame it like that, it sounds like a very large amount. And it sort of is, but it sort of depends on your depends on how you're framing it a little bit. That's some sort of manipulative statistics that I just used there. Ranger best class. I don't think Ranger's best class, but I thought that this Ranger was okay as a longer range damage dealer in a campaign where I didn't have another Sharpshooter to do her job better than she would have. Basically. Like, she was okay. She was fine. And yeah, I've talked about Killzone already, talked about all this other stuff. And that was the team. I want to give an honorable mention to Spacey Penguin, who rolled Shadow Strike in the AWC, and I was like, I am going to make her Shadow Strike face-off stuff. And I pulled it off once, and it was okay. Maybe I pulled it off twice. She got wounded a lot. She went on a lot of missions where I like broke concealment to a solo drone, and that was basically her life. She still has 52 kills over 17 missions, which is a better ratio than Yvor's has, actually, despite having considerably lower aim and never having gotten up to Master Sergeant. I went for a somewhat different build on her because I was thinking about the soldier more as like a one-shot face-off soldier who didn't need to output. This is sort of hard to explain, actually. I wanted her to come on like mid-game missions and one-shot a pod. I wanted her to get to bring them on, have 100% chance to kill enemies with face-off and face-off from concealment, and I wanted her to do that, and that was her thing. And at the time, I didn't think that I needed that like long-range damage threat or whatever, and she doesn't have any aim anyway, so she wouldn't have been that good at it. So what I was planning for the soldier to do the rest of the time is be a suppression bot, use rapid reaction against guys who patrol in, stuff like that. That was the general idea for the soldier. Didn't really make it. All right. So, I mean, I think the face-off bring 'em on combo is quite strong, and I hope that the face-off half of it gets nerfed. And I used lots of very effective face-offs in this campaign. You can check out the latest troop column that I played in this campaign is a really good example of 2 pretty ridiculous face-offs in a bunker buster turn where I also used serial. Like, M3s just have a lot of health, and so I had to use a lot of abilities to kill stuff. So, those are my classes for the campaign, and these were the soldiers that got us there. These are the hardest house rules that I've ever played with, for any XCOM probably, and this was the most challenging campaign to beat for any XCOM other than probably my first ever Iron Man Impossible Long War 1 campaign, because I was still learning everything back then. But this took me a good, 5 or 6 attempts, and I lost in late game a lot of times because the Avatar project really steps it up on Legend as the game gets later, and you're struggling to create vigilance because you're not allowed to go on 0% missions. And I feel like I won this campaign largely based on creating a really good understanding of the strategic layer and exactly when timings were and when I had to do stuff. And I've written a Reddit post about managing havens to try to teach people some stuff about how to do this. And I feel like the tactical game is extremely flexible. There are lots of things you can do. There are people I talk to who I think are really good at the game who do things very differently from how I do them, and they tell me that they succeed, and I look at what they're doing and I think, yeah, that seems like it would succeed. Like a team which is focused extremely heavily around mitigation with sting grenades and dense smokes and just kills things sort of slowly with base damage type abilities and things that, yeah, sure, that works. A team focused more about area suppression and overwatch fire and maneuvering enemies around and getting to shoot at them in favorable ways. Yeah, okay, I can see how you can make that work. I would not recommend a veteran player try that because I think it's really involved and difficult. just as an aside. And I mean, X-Wins is playing tactical in XCOM 2 and having a lot of fun building like the worst builds ever because his viewers ask him to, and he does okay. So I think that in general, tactical is a lot of fun. I wish that strategic were a little bit more flexible than it is, but I think that strategic's very engaging in like it's sort of fun, at least for the right sort of person, to learn how to play strategic. And if you're not the sort of person who likes that, you can hopefully read posts. I'm trying to get more content out to explain it and pick up how to play it. And then I think it's genuinely fun to try to execute strategic well. There are a lot of dark events which change things up, wounds change things up, squad wipes change things up, and it makes for really fun and enjoyable and different campaigns every time you play. And I really love this game right now. So, hope you guys enjoyed meeting my soldiers. Thank you so much to the people who submitted these soldiers. I love the soldiers in my character pool, and they make it so much fun to play the game. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and let me know if you want any other rants about anything, because sometimes I just feel like talking for a long time. All right, thanks guys.